Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have with us one of the most accomplished musicians on the scene. He has been around for over 60 years and has worked with many greats, from Philly Joe Jones to Lee Morgan. So many. I can just go on and on. He's played with everybody. Dave Holland, Regina Carter, Elvin Jones. I mean, he's worked with everybody. He is a pianist, composer, and educator. Please welcome to Jazz Talk, Mr. Kenny Barron. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You know, Kenny, you've been on the scene, as I said, for so long, for 60 years. And I believe you're, I'm trying to, let's see, yeah, you're from Philadelphia, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's so many great musicians who've come out of Philadelphia. I'm thinking of Stanley Clarke, Lee Morgan, Jimmy Heath, McCoy Tyner. I could spend a whole show just talking about all the musicians who've come out of Philadelphia, and of course yourself. But I'm curious to know more about your humble beginnings, how you got involved in music, how you started playing piano.
Well, I came from a family of five.
Mm-hmm.
I was the youngest. I was the baby. And I had two brothers and two sisters. And even my oldest brother, Bill,
Yeah.
was also a professional musician. And it was through him that I kind of got my start. You know,
Oh,
I was studying piano, and which I don't think he even knew, because he had a day job at the time. He was still living in Philly. He had a
okay.
day job at the time. And I was kind of blessed, thank God, with a fairly good ear. And I remember hearing my sister play some blues chords on the piano.
Yeah.
So I went to the piano and I played them. And Bill happened to be coming home from work, and he heard me play these chords, and he was really surprised. Because,
Right.
like I said, he didn't know I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about music, and he kind of tested my ear and things like that. So I guess he was cool with it. So eventually, he got me a gig with the band that he was working with, which was, I was the baby, and it was the Mel Melvin Orchestra,
Mm.
and it was mostly dances and what we call cabaret.
Yeah.
You know, so you would have to play for dancing. You would have to play for a dancer. You would have to play for a comedian. I mean, it was a real variety show. And I learned a lot. You know, the dancers, for instance, would dance to what we called interpretive dances at the time. They
Yeah.
would dance to Duke Ellington and so on. So I learned repertoire doing that, and during that whole period in Philly, when I guess my first gig, I was about 15.
Now, Kenny, I wanted to go back a little bit and ask you. I had Kevin and Robin Eubanks on the show, and they told me that you actually studied with their mother, piano
That's
lessons.
right. That's
That's
right. Yeah.
incredible, man. Wow.
Yeah. Vera. What time? It was Vera Bryant.
Yeah,
She's the sister of Ray Bryant.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So
incredible.
yes, I studied with her for quite a few years.
Wow. Now, one of the things that was really impressed me in your mid-teens, man, how did you get to play with Philly Joe Jones? That's incredible.
Well, it was a stroke of luck. My brother was playing with him at the time, and they came through Philadelphia,
Yeah.
and he needed a piano. I think I can't think of the guy's name. It was Dick something. Was playing piano, and he missed the flight or the train or something. He couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So Bill gave him my number, and I wound up working with him, along with another Philly bassist named Arthur Harper. So it was just a
Mhm.
weekend, but it was a really incredible gig for me.
I mean, did you realize, Kenny, at the time who he was? I mean, of course, we look
I
back,
knew who he
Philly.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Man, that's incredible. So early 60s, man, I guess you make your way to New York and you're working with people like Roy Haynes and Lee Morgan. What was it like working with Roy, man, at that time?
Oh, it was incredible. It was really incredible. I had never played with anybody who played like that. I mean, we call
Yeah,
them snap, crackle.
yeah,
And
exactly.
we had a great band. He had a great band. It was Henry Grimes
Yes.
and saxophonist Frank Strozier
Hmm.
and myself. It was just a quartet. And it was just incredible. And I remember we would trade fours or eights or whatever. And I literally had to count out loud. because it was just so fascinating watching him do that. But he always came out right. Always came out on one.
Wow, wow.
He really incredible.
Yeah, you also played with the late Lee Morgan too. What was it like working with him, man?
It was a lot of fun. That was actually in Philly at the Showboat, and
Okay.
that was a band that was actually Jimmy Heath
Oh, wow.
and Lee and Tootie Heath, and I think the bassist was Spanky DeBrest, who's also from
Thank you,
Philly.
DeBress. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that was it was only for a week, but that was so much fun. Wow.
I can imagine, man. Lee
Yeah.
Morgan, you know. Now, you also played with James Moody too for a little bit, and I think it was he that recommended you to Dizzy Gillespie, or he told Dizzy about you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Moody was one of the first gigs I had in New York, and
Okay.
subsequently he rejoined Dizzy's small group.
Yeah.
And I happened to be walking down Broadway one day, and I ran into them. They were at Birdland,
Oh, wow.
and he told me that Lalo Schifrin was leaving the band, and he asked me if I would be interested. So how could I say no? you know, you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't working. I'd just gotten married, so yes, So I went down and talked to Dizzy at Birdland, and never heard me play a note. He just hired me on Moody's recommendation.
That is
So
fantastic.
that was great. That was really great for me. And I stayed there for 4 years.
4 years with Dizzy, man, that's incredible. Now, as I said, you worked with so many people during that time. I think you also worked with Hank Mobley too in the mid '60s.
Actually, no, that's one person I never did work with.
You didn't work with Hank? I could have sworn you worked with Hank. Okay, thinking that you worked with
No.
Hank Mobley. Okay, okay. Now, as I said, you're on the scene, man, just playing with countless all these great musicians. And then one of the things that I found fascinating in the early '70s, you became an educator, man. You started teaching. You became an educator and started teaching. Man, what was that like? Were you sort of juggling all these different things like a career? You're gigging at night and then you're teaching during the day.
Yes, I was, and it was pretty hard.
Wow.
Because there was a club here in New York called Bradley's,
Yeah.
and you played till the last set started at 2:00 in the morning, so 2 to 3, and then I would get go home. Well, first of all, I would never went straight home. You couldn't, so you hung out because all the cats were there. So you would hang out till 4, maybe 4:30 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go home. Then I'd have to get up and drive down to. I was teaching at Rutgers.
Yeah.
That's where I started teaching at Rutgers in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I would have to drive down there at 8:30 in the morning. So it at the time, I was young, so the lack of sleep didn't bother me so much.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
But it
taught
was
there for about 25 years, right? About 25 years you were there?
exactly. I was there for 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started in '73, and I think I left in '99, something like that. I
Now,
retired.
I'm sure during your time there, you probably worked with, I guess, a lot of great musicians who are on the scene today. Any in particular that you can mention, that you worked with when you were teaching at that time?
Who were students?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, well, like Terrence Blanchard, who
Wow.
played great piano. Ralph Peterson, who actually played trumpet in the big band at Rutgers. He
Really?
was
You mean drummer Ralph Peterson?
yeah. He started as a trumpet player.
Oh, wow. That's incredible, man.
Yeah. Harry Pickens was there. So many people. You know, um, Frank Foster was an instructor for a while, and Freddie Waits was an instructor. But it was a great environment. Great environment.
Yeah, yeah. All those guys are fantastic. You mentioned. Now, I wanted to ask you about this group that you helped form in the early '80s, Sphere,
Oh
with
yeah.
Ben Riley, Buster Williams, and you guys actually, I think, recorded made your first recording the day that Monk passed away. And
That's correct. Yeah.
yeah, I was reading, I think, somewhere where the whole thing was sort of you guys were trying to get Monk maybe to play again, but I guess he didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And
That's yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think Dr. Eddie Henderson was his physician or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But
For a while, and whenever Monk would come to San Francisco.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like, man, working in that band with those greats, man?
Oh, it was incredible. It was really incredible, and it was really a cooperative band, co-op. So everybody knew what everybody was making in terms of the finances, and we also shared in the responsibilities of making the band work.
Yeah,
Somebody took care of transportation and various other things. So it was a really great experience, and then playing with Charlie Rouse and
yeah,
Ben
he's
was just
fantastic.
fun. It was just big fun. That's the best word, the best way I can say it.
Yeah, yeah. And Buster Williams was in that group too. Like I said,
Right.
you guys had some really, really nice recordings. Now, in the mid '80s, early '90s, you hooked up with Mr. Stan Getz. What was it like playing with Stan, man?
Oh, it was great. It was beautiful. I guess the first time I worked with him, I took Chick Corea's place. He had at the time he had the band. Uh, they called it the Captain Marvel band. So it was Tony Williams and Stanley Clarke and um, and Chick. And Chick had to leave. So I don't know where Stan got my number from, but he called me. And I did, at the time, I did about 2 weeks working. And we were playing all of Chick Corea's music. So that was a really great experience. And I think we played some concerts in South Carolina or something like that. Played in North Carolina, a place called the Frog and Nightgown in Raleigh.
Okay.
And a place in Baltimore, Left Bank Jazz Society.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of other spots. But then after that, I didn't hear from him anymore for a while.
Hmm.
And then he started calling me. He had taken a position, artist in residence in California at Stanford University. So I would go out there periodically and play some concerts with him, along with I think it was Al Foster and uh, George Mraz
Okay.
in the beginning, yeah. And then shortly after that, it became a kind of a permanent situation, and it was great. I loved playing with Stan because he was such a lyrical player. He'd play a ballad and make you cry.
Yeah. Yeah. He was.
And could swing,
Yeah. Oh yes, he
Yeah,
could. Yes, he could. A
yeah.
great musician. I was also going to ask you. You were recording, of course, a lot of music during that time, and one of my personal favorites, man, is Quick Step.
Ah,
Man, that's a bad recording. I was talking to a friend of mine. You may know him. His name is Doc Manning. He runs a jazz club called Andy Music in Baltimore. We were talking about some of the songs like Big Girls and Here and There. I mean, I believe Victor wrote Big Girls. What's the
Big
story
Girls,
behind
right,
Yeah, what's the
right.
story behind that song, man? What is that all about?
Uh, I think he was talking about not about the size.
Right, right.
He's talking about adult big
Okay.
girls, adult women.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. That's a great recording, man. Like I said, that and Things Unseen is another one of my favorites. I have like so many of your recordings, and like I said, you just continue making just so much great music. You were sort of like in demand. You were like a pianist. I mean, you played with everybody. And when I was looking at your resume, I says, Kenny's worked with every single major artist you can think of. I actually had a good friend of yours, Regina Carter, on the
Oh yeah.
show. And man, she loves you. She said, that's my mentor. That's my man. And I missed you guys. You guys, I think, were in Baltimore either early this year or late last year at Keystone Corner.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
missed that show, but later on I went back and I saw Regina, and I had her on the show. And I also had Carmen Lundy on. We talked about you as well too. I think Carmen did her version of Big Girls too. She
Yeah.
recorded that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And she's a great writer. Actually recorded one of
Man,
her songs.
she's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
I think she's one of the greatest out there. I mean, she writes basically all of her music, arranges it. She's a visual
Yeah.
artist. She does everything. She's
Yeah.
really incredible. But I wanted to ask you, man, about this honorary doctorate that you received from Berkeley. I think it was 2010 or 11. Tell us about that, man. What was it like receiving that?
It was great. It was quite an honor.
Yeah.
And one of the things they do is that I mean, it wasn't just me. It was Angelique Kidjo and
Was
it's
it
a
one? Was
Gypsy.
it Paco de Lucia? Didn't
Yeah,
he
Paco de
one?
Lucia.
Yeah, yeah,
And the night before you get the honor, they have students who perform the music of that
yeah.
particular person. So also a Gamble and Huff.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah. So Terry Lancarian had put together a group to play compositions of mine. And a big thrill for me is that my granddaughter was a student there at the time. So she was part of Terry Lynn's group, and we played some of my music, and I got to play with them. So it was pretty fantastic for me.
Man, and you're also an NEA jazz master too.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, I know they just had one. I think last week, and I think Reggie Workman and a few other people.
Yeah,
That Dee Bridgewater, I believe, hosted it.
Yeah.
But we were speaking about Regina Carter. How did you hook up with her? Because I noticed you guys, periodically work together quite a bit. And man, she just had glowing things to say about you. I mean, Kenny, she holds you in high regard, man. I mean,
I love her.
That's my mentor. Yeah, she's fantastic. But how did you guys?
I first heard her, I guess it was in Telluride.
Okay.
I'd heard her name, but I'd never heard her. There's the Jazz Festival in Telluride, Colorado. And I was just floored. And when she came down off the stage, I introduced myself, and I said, somehow or other, we're going to play together. And it took a minute, but we hooked it up.
Glad you did, man. You guys have made such beautiful music together. I love both of you. Also, I wanted to ask you, you also played with the great Elvin Jones. What was it like to play with him, man?
Oh, it was fun. I think Frank Foster was also in the band. Yeah, either that or Bunky Green from Chicago. Because I did about maybe two recordings with Elvin.
Oh, man.
And it was just fascinating. It was fascinating. I mean, I first heard him live, with Train.
Yeah.
And my mouth was just open the whole time at Showboat in Philly.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't. I'd never heard anybody play drums like that. And then to get an opportunity to play with him was heaven.
Yeah, he's incredible. He was incredible. Left an indelible mark, man, on drummers. I wanted to ask you, who were some of your influences on the piano? I'm curious, man, because sometimes I listen to you. You got your own thing, but I can hear sometimes a little bit of Herbie, a little bit of McCoy Tyner. I wonder if he's influenced by Bud Powell and Thelonious Monk, too, because I can hear a lot of those guys in your playing, man.
Yeah. I'm influenced by all of those people, but I think the primary influence is Tommy Flanagan.
Oh, yeah. You guys did some work together, too.
Yeah, we did an album together.
Yeah.
With Tommy Flanagan and Hank Jones, the Detroit School.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were both big influences on me.
Yeah, they are both fantastic. Now you also, I guess, over the last several years, you've been working with one of my favorite bass players, Mr. Dave Holland. How did you guys hook up, man? Because Dave is one of the greats.
Yeah, we did. I guess early on we did. We were both sidemen on a couple of records, and we always talked about maybe trying to do something. And there's a label called from Germany. I can't think of the name now. Matthias Winkelm, Inja. And he proposed doing a recording with myself and Dave Holland and Swiss drummer from Switzerland. That name escapes me right now. I hate getting old, but anyway, great Daniel Humer.
Oh yes,
yeah. So we did and I had never met Dave. I mean, we never played together other than that. So I brought in some music. He brought in some music, and it was really a great time. I'd never played that combination. Dave and Danielle, and from that, every time we would see each other in Europe or wherever, it was, we should try and do something. We kept talking about it. So finally, I think it was the guy who I can't think of his name now. He was head of Verve in France. I can't think of his name, but Dave and I got a gig and playing at the big church there in Paris, and he was there. This producer. He said, "I want to record this," so that became our very first record, duo record.
Yeah.
So we toured with that for a while, and then eventually, saying, well, maybe we should try a trio record. So we thought about that, and he always wanted to play with Jonathan Blake. So we hooked that up, and that's the last record we did. And of course, because of the virus, our tour got cut short.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's with all the musicians. But man, but like I
yeah.
said, yeah, I love Dave, and like I said, just seeing you work with him. Hey, I wanted to ask you, did you ever get a chance to do anything with Miles Davis?
No, I never did.
I would have loved for you, man. That would have been something else. I would have loved if you played with him. You know, he
I
wow.
would have too.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I also wanted to ask you, man, about you as a composer, but also working in film. You did some stuff. You've done a few things with Spike Lee. Didn't you do the "Do the Right Thing"? You composed for that film.
No, I didn't really compose anything for that. I think I played a solo piece. I can't remember the name of it, but it wasn't my composition.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've done a couple of film scores with Spike.
You Malcolm X. You did something with that too.
Yeah, yeah, uh, and Terrence Blanchard. I also did this one with him last year, a couple of years ago, down in New
Yeah,
Orleans,
he's a
and
great
it was
composer.
now he was one of my students. That's it. He was one of my students.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it was a movie about a comedian with I think it was Joe Pesci or Danny DeVito and Robert De Niro. So I can't remember the name of it. But I only had a chance one time to write music for film, and that was it was called Another Harvest Moon with Ernest Borgnine
Oh
was
wow.
was one of the stars. And what I found out later is that because it never really hit the big screen, it went straight to video. You know, when I found out later that they didn't use the music I wrote, which is okay
Yeah, it's okay. It's
because
okay.
they paid me very well. So
Good.
you know, but it was a great experience doing that. So
Kenny, what of course, most of us, all of us, basically, are quarantined. Musicians are not able to travel right now. When you're home and just relaxing, who do you listen to? Or what if I came up by your place and just to sit and chill with you? What are you listening to? What artists are you listening to right now?
everybody
Yeah.
in terms of jazz, I really love who was one of my students at um, uh, Manhattan School of Music, Gerald Clayton.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love Gerald Clayton. I love
He's a great bassist. Yeah.
yeah, and Sullivan Fortner. You know, so I listen. Of course, the greats, obviously. You know, so I listen to all of them, and that I like some. I don't like hip hop too much, unfortunately,
I got you,
but
man.
I like R&B. You know, when it was really R&B.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was, you know, it was blues and music based on I Got Rhythm Changes.
Okay. So you so
Yeah.
you like the '70s bands? You like stuff like Parliament Funkadelic and Earth, Wind and
Oh
Fire?
yeah, yeah, yeah. James Brown. I was just listening to
Yeah,
James Brown yesterday.
yeah. Sly and
You
the
know, so
Family
yeah,
Stone, all that stuff.
yeah, I used to listen to all of that stuff. You know, and Buster Williams and I we used to sing doo-wop as a joke.
Really?
Oh yeah, just because we both listened to that when
Oh
we,
wow.
when we were growing up. You know, so
Yeah, yeah. So I was going to ask you, what projects do you have sort of that you're working on, or maybe we'll see from Kenny Barron next year? I mean, I know you've done some recent things, but maybe any solo projects or something that we may see in 2021?
I'm considering right now. I'm thinking about a dual project with different partners. You know, maybe piano and drums, or piano and vibes, piano and voice, but just different kinds of dual situations.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's fantastic. Also I was going to ask you, now you're still are teaching right now. Are you, for instance, are you teaching courses online right now? A lot of musicians, of course, are streaming or teaching courses online. Are you doing anything like that currently?
No, no, I'm not. No, I stopped teaching about 5 years ago. I was then my last position was at Juilliard, so I stopped
Julia,
about
that's
five or
right.
6 ago. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Well, Kenny, listen, man, I want to thank you so much for being on Jazz Talk. I love you, man. You're one of my favorite musicians.
All right, thank you.
So much class in the way that you carry yourself. And like I said, I've been listening to you for, oh gosh, man, decades. And you amaze me, the stuff that you come up with. Hang on, I'm about to close out the show. Well, you've heard it from the great Kenny Barron. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.
Thank you.